Hi, so today I'm going to be showing you how to use a technique called stippling. It's for shading objects. So first off, you need to know how light sources work, obviously, before you can start using other techniques. So just using a pencil, we have our sphere here, and then depending on where our light source is, that'll tell you where your brightest point on the sphere is going to be, and that's going to be around here because it's just straight down depending on where the light source is pointing at to here. So this side is obviously going to be a lot darker, and you all probably know that already. So then from there, you just start doing layer by layer a lighter gradient each time, just by pressing lighter with your pencil or pen, depending on which one you prefer, until you reach that point where you know that it's not going to have any more shadows on it. It's just going to be a light object or light area right there. And then obviously you can spend a lot more time, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because that's not what we're here for. So stippling is most commonly used with pens because they can't do the same thing, especially pens like this Sharpie writing pen. I really like this one. It creates a very nice stippling effect. But they obviously can't have the same gradient because it's either you're pressing on the paper or you're not. There's no gradient in between. So when I'm creating stippling, you need to think about where your light source is again, and you need to think about where your center of light, let's call it, that's the center of light, is going to be. And ours is going to be here again in the same place. You can move it around. You could have the light source over here or here or here, and it would just depend on which way the light source is pointing. So stippling, I like to start off by just kind of roughening up the edges of where you're going to have the shading begin and end. So like right here, if we look back, it just starts right here and right here. So we do that, we replicate it around here. And you can even try to make it with some slower strokes, just kind of like try to ease it into a lighter gradient. So how you stipple exactly is you make your hand vibrate. I don't know any official techniques, but this is how I do it, and I found that it looks really good, or I think it does. So you go layer by layer from that first roughening up, I guess you could call it, and you just as the same thing here, but with dots now. And each time you make the dots further apart, and if you know how to do it right, you can try to make them smaller every time too, and that'll give you a very nice gradient. My hand vibrates on its own, and it's kind of hard to control. So sometimes you can mess up and like there will be a line in there or something, but it can create like a dirty effect almost, and it looks really good on like horror art, like I'm beginning to get into. So like I can basically just sit here and move my hand along, and it's going to vibrate on its own, and that's not always the best thing. So then something I like about this technique, and all shading honestly, is that you can correct yourself. You can't go back obviously, but I can see that this doesn't look like a nice enough gradient, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to add a few more layers to make it look nicer, or try to. Sorry, my cat is in the background. Hi, kitty. But yeah, so you just keep on doing this over and over again, and it can improve over time, and it'll eventually end. Like you can use this, like you can start wherever you need to, just to give like a gradient of color and light, just to make it so that it looks like it's not just white paper, which is something that peeves me. So yeah, kind of like something like that. So it's a really nice technique. I think it turns out really nice, and it has a really cool effect. It doesn't look like other types like hatching and stuff. Hatching is really nice. I like it too, and I use it a lot. But I think that hatching is more like one that's for bigger areas and less detailed. This one takes a long time to do just small parts, so I like to use it on smaller places like under the eyebrow and stuff, like on the teeth and other things. And like you could use stippling on like boxes and stuff, but I feel like it looks better on organic shapes other than other ones.